And let the one who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one.
Today we're going to go over some of the responsibilities as a safety team member and the responsibility of actually taking action and being able to take action when needed in an active shooter situation. There's a couple things that we need to know as far as responding to that active shooter in the church setting, or any setting really. There has been statistics now that we've been able to gather by videos that have been recorded in the churches or in the schools or in what other venues, and statistically speaking, when the active shooter comes in, if you're not able to stop and be proactive and you haven't stopped him before he comes in the door, the statistics is when the shot is fired, you have a 5-second window. The statistics is actually a little higher, it's about 6 to 7, but with our training I tell everybody it's a 5-second window. So with that 5-second window, basically what happens is the active shooter is going to come into your church, and in all honesty, the active shooter can start in your church however he would like, because most churches don't have metal detectors. So basically what can happen is it can be an active shooter walking towards your front doors with an AR-15 if you don't have your doors guarded. However, we can be proactive in that way. So if I have a guy manning the door that's armed all the time, I'm proactive. So that shooter sees that, so that may not be the way he does it. So he conceals 1, 2, or 5 handguns on him, and then he comes into your church, none the wiser, has nice dress, has nice clothes, doesn't matter. He comes in, he sits down, and in all honesty, this is why I tell all of our church safety team members to keep your eyes open during praying, because if I was an active shooter, if I was an attacker, if I wanted to take the church out, just like the guy in Charleston, it would be during prayer. It would be once everybody has bowed their heads, closed their eyes, nobody knows what's going on, bam, and he starts shooting you. That's when I would attack. And this is one thing that I try to stress toward the safety team members is you need to put yourself in the criminal's shoes. You need to think like a criminal to stop a criminal. It's not as easy as just saying, all right, we'll put this in place and we'll put this in place. There's things we need to do to put in place, but there are also things we need to get in our mind is like, okay, where's my weak link? And I see across the churches that I work with, I see the weak link as one of them is they think because they have the doors guarded, they think because they have a couple members in the auditorium that they've got everything under control, and they don't. We have to think like criminals and criminal minds, and honestly, that's when I would attack. If I was an active shooter, if I was somebody that wanted to do harm, if I was somebody that wanted to do damage, I would do one of two things. I would go into the church, I would sit down, everybody bows their head, starts praying, I would open fire. Or, if I really wanted to do some damage and I was an active shooter, I would go into the church. I would have my little Bible-looking bag, the little Bible carrier, the cover that totes like this, has the handles. I would carry one of those in church. I would make a pipe bomb. I would go sit in church. And then in a moment that people thought I might have to use the bathroom, when nobody's paying attention, I would leave it. I would set it, and then I would walk away. These are things that we need to be prepared for. These are things that you need to think about and come up with. To be honest with you, we had an incident at one of the churches that I was the lead safety team member. We had this guy come in. Honestly, if you looked into the definition of a textbook terrorist, this was him. The way he dressed, the way he acted, wore his sunglasses inside, knew the cameras were there, looked up at the camera with his sunglasses on. Didn't take his sunglasses off until he knew there weren't any cameras watching him. He come in with a backpack. He came in and he sat down. He was acting very fidgety and he kept going into that backpack. Now, I knew this because when I saw him, I was on him like white on rice on a paper plate in a snowstorm. I was standing behind the individual that we were keeping our eyes on back at the wall. I could see what was going on. I was high enough up to where I could see that he was fidgeting with the backpack. And then our other member walked in and he had his high and tight. He was veteran Marine. And he walks in, has his beard. As he walks by, the guy catches him out of his peripheral vision and he jerks his head. And he like goes back like that. He's like doing this. And as soon as he did that, he caught me on the peripherals of his eyes. And so he jerks. So he's looking something like this forward, walks in, jerks, and then looks again like that. Immediately, as soon as he did that, he grabbed his backpack, he picked it back up in the seat after he'd been fidgeting with it back and forth, back and forth. He kept fidgeting with it for a second. He set it back down and he looks. He starts looking around, he gets up, he walks out, grabs his backpack, takes off. I don't know what was going down that day, but I have my suspicions. These are things we need to keep our eye out for. I can't prove anything, but I can say that if something was going to happen, thankfully, we were able to prevent it. And this is what you have to do. You have to keep eyes on stuff that is out of place, the anomaly. This individual walked in, he was an absolute anomaly. I have nothing against anybody or anything, but when you're acting out of place, even visitors don't act that out of place. And we need to keep that in mind. You have to watch them. Just because we're a church, we don't need to take stuff for granted. We don't need to think the best of everybody. In all honesty, if you're on the safety and security team, you need to question everything. Even if one of your members starts acting out of place, you need to question it. So at what point do we need to be as a safety and security team? We have that 5-second window if shots do go off. Now, if this guy would have pulled a gun out of his backpack while I was standing behind him, I should have been able to react pretty quick. In fact, I should be able to react fast enough as I see the gun coming out. I should have been able to take him out before a shot was fired. This is our duty, this is our responsibility, this is a must as a church safety team member. You have to be on your toes all the time. And this is one of the things that I keep seeing across the board with all the congregations that I work with. The drawing. It comes down to it, we get people in front of a static target. They can get shot placement down pretty good. They can get accuracy of shot placement down pretty good. Now, shot placement is where they're going to shoot. Now, this is variable. The gentleman sitting in front of me that day, where am I going to shoot? Honestly, probably the back of the head. Because that's what I could see the best. If somebody's squared off at me one-on-one, where am I going to shoot? That's going to be center of mass, probably squared chest. Right in here somewhere. What I'm aiming for at that point in time is the spine. Now, in the church safety security team, with your duty, with your responsibility, you need to get your draw and shot fired on paper in 2.5 seconds. I go over this in a lot of my videos. You have a 5-second window typically. 2.5 seconds is half of that. You can double that when adrenaline kicks in. So I would be at the 5-second mark. Now, if you can get your drawing down to 1 second, which isn't that hard to do, especially with a sport coat type deal. If you cannot get your drawing down to 2.5 seconds, if you have not practiced to have it under a shirt without a coat, especially guys on the safety team, if you can't get down to that 2.5 seconds, you need to go and do something different. You either need to practice more, and I suggest everybody practice, get you a laser cartridge, get you an app called Shot Verifier, laser cartridge, empty gun, and practice your drawing 5 minutes daily until you get to 2.5 seconds. Once you get to 2.5 seconds, 7 days in a row, back it off to 3 days a week. For church safety and security team members, I do not suggest any less than 3 days a week, 5 minutes those 3 days. Sunday morning before church, Wednesday night before church, and then Friday. Or Thursday or Saturday, it doesn't matter. I do Friday because it splits it up. It is our job to protect the flock. And this is a must. So if you can't get that 2.5 seconds down with a shirt untucked, especially the guys that I work with are casual churches. Most of them are blue jeans and sport shirts untucked. Some of them tuck them in. And that's fine. But we've got to get to the point to where we can get to that time. If you're having problems and can't get to that time, I highly suggest going to a sport coat. You can buy a very casual sport coat. It can be a blue jean, casual sport coat. So it matches your blue jeans, matches your sport shirt. Just throw a sport shirt on, it doesn't matter. Throw your sport coat on, you have your gun on your side. The gun under the sport coat is a lot easier than under the shirt, because it's a one-handed draw and it can be very quick. So all you do with the sport coat is you sweep the coat back a little bit past your gun, grab your gun, grip your gun, draw up. Now I can either punch forward, or I can come up and I can drop down, and then I can make my shot. It's just simple. So those of you that have problems, you don't need to ignore the fact that it's your responsibility to be able to protect your flock. You need to take that responsibility on and say, hey, okay, I'm not good enough, I'm not coordinated enough, I'm not where I need to be with just under the shirt. I need to do something. Take responsibility of either practicing and getting to that point. I can do under a shirt in less than 2.5 seconds on a cold start. Cold start means that's the first draw of the day. That's where you need to be, because that's where you're going to be if you are attacked in public. You're not going to have drawn 30, 40, 50, 60 times and say, oh, I got that 1.2 seconds. That's not how it works. It's the cold start of the day, because that is exactly where you're going to be at when you're attacked. So guys, I just want to bring this to you because this is what I'm seeing. I also don't want you to think that it can never happen to your church. I've had a lot of things happen in my time of working security, safety and security, and or just security in general. I've worked over 24 years in asset protection and I've seen a lot of stuff. I've worked over a decade in church security and I've seen a lot of stuff. In my time, I've seen muggings, purse snatchings, kidnappings. I've stopped several kidnappings, I've stopped several muggings, I've stopped several purse snatches. I've stopped a couple of incidences that I believe that would have went down. I believe they would have been bad. We don't need to get comfortable in our environment. We must always be looking for anomalies, and an anomaly can be the slightest thing. One of the things that I got used to in actual asset protection was I was on a camera system always. I was always behind a camera, and then I went confronted. Behind that camera, one of the tell signs is the eyes. They would look up, they would do this, or they would look around. And that's things you need to catch. Even if it's one of your church members, I highly suggest keeping your safety team members anonymous, for the most part. A lot of people are going to know who's who, but for the most part, the larger part of the congregation, people that actually don't do a lot of serving, don't do a lot of stuff, I suggest keeping them anonymous. In fact, I suggest the safety team have a backup plan. There's always that chance that anybody can flip a switch. Even the guys on the safety team, even the members of the church, even the leaders of the church. I've been in church long enough over the past 45 years to see leaders that have went crazy. I've seen leaders do stuff that you wouldn't imagine leaders doing. I've heard of leaders doing stuff that you wouldn't imagine leaders doing. I've heard of leaders molesting and raping. You need to keep yourself at a distance enough, or at least a hard shell enough, to be able to take action if you or someone you know is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And you need to remember this, because it can and will happen. Hopefully it won't happen in your church, and I pray it doesn't. Hopefully it won't happen in any of the ones that I'm in, and I pray it doesn't. But for those of you out there that are in congregations that it does happen, I pray that you have the hardness and ability to do it. Because it will happen. There's evil coming into our churches as wolves in sheep's clothing. And we need to be able to stop it. So guys, it's really a big responsibility of more than just saying, hey, I want to carry a gun, I want to be in church safety and security. You really have to think about what you're doing before you get into it. And when you get into it, you need to know there's a responsibility. There's a responsibility to the point to where you need to be trained in every aspect. And you need to be ready. Because if something happens, you probably won't be able to live with yourself. You'll be depressed, you'll be down, if you weren't able to act. This is why I tell all my guys, this is real. This is responsibility that must be taken. And it's not a light burden. It's a thankless job, but it must be done. So I suggest to you to keep practicing. I suggest to you to practice more. I suggest that you be at that 2.5 seconds no matter what it takes. Because if it does go down, and I know a lot of churches don't do a lot of training, so you must take that responsibility on your own. I try to work with congregations and I try to get them to say, hey, you need more training. Yeah, we know. But that's all I get, because they think the best of everybody. A lot of these people coming into your church don't care about you. A lot of these people coming to your church are there to do you harm, because it's all about them. You need to understand that, and you need to take action when action is needed. Greet them, be nice, pray for them, but take action when it's needed. So we go back down to that 2.5 seconds. If you cannot get it with a shirt untucked or a shirt tucked, go to that sport jacket. Practice to the point to where you're the best that you can be. Practice to the point where somebody does come in and they start attacking, you're here in less than 2 seconds. You're here in less than 2.5 seconds. You've got that shot off, you've taken that guy out. Your aim's good, you've built muscle memory up, and you are able to stop the evil. Now at this point in time of stopping the evil, I suggest to you to see a counselor. I suggest to you to get help, because you're going to need to be talked through it. In any kind of situation that this kind of stuff happens, you're going to need to talk to somebody. You're going to need to talk it out, cry it out, puke it out, whatever you got to do. Because it's going to hit. You'll be angry at first, and then it's going to hit you. In any of the situations that I was in when I really had to hurt somebody, it hit me. Or when somebody else got hurt, or when somebody died, it hit me. Talking it out is the best thing you can do. It's great therapy. Pray about it and talk about it. Guys, this is Spencer with Defense Training. I bring this to you because this is more serious than I see a lot of the congregations taking. They're not taking their safety and security as serious as I think they should. And if they are attacked, I have a feeling that something bad is going to happen. The church in West Texas had it pretty much right. Mr. Wilson was able to take out the attacker, and only 2 people killed. The church in Charleston did not have it right. He killed 6 people. I believe he would have killed more if there were more there. This is why we always must be ready. I'm Spencer, small arms instructor here at Defense Training. As always, prepare for the worst, pray for peace, stay safe, stay armed.
Please like, subscribe, and comment below. Thanks.